Joining us now is a tour guide who is in Iceland, and it's Svanur Thorkelsson who joins me now. Svanur, good evening to you.
Good evening, Petri.
Now, we just heard there the science of all of this, but what is the impact on the ground?
Well, it is severe, actually. The inhabitants have all been evacuated, like you have probably heard, on Saturday night. And luckily, they have all had shelters to return to, or the emergency centers have actually been closed in Iceland now, because all the families, 4,000 plus of them, have found housing with friends, family, and people that have opened their houses for them.
Wow.
So, but they were shaken, and literally so, of course, because they're experiencing, well, in the past 4 or 5 days, well over 3,000 earthquakes, all counted. Everything was shaking, and they came out, some of them behaving like they were drunk. They couldn't stay still. They felt that everything was shaking all the time, and they are now watching their little town being torn to shreds by earthquakes, and wondering whether the eruption is actually going to come up in the middle of town like it is predicted, because there is a rift that runs right through the town, and this is where the geologists are saying it's most likely place for it to happen.
And what does that mean for the future of the town of Grindvalk? Grindavik.
Grindavik, yes,
Grindavik.
Grindavik. Yeah.
What's the future of the town? Because presumably this fault line, I've seen the damage, we've seen photographs of the damage, is quite extraordinary
Yes.
and devastating. It's not something you could imagine just being patched up. How is this going to pan out? Or do you have to wait for the volcano to do what it plans to do before any future plans can be made?
Well, even so, the town is heavily damaged, and it's going to be up to the people from Grindavik whether they choose to return or not, whether they choose to. Of course, there's going to be some salvage attempts. But, for example, in 1973, we had this massive eruption on Heimaey, just 12 kilometers off the coast of south coast of Iceland. It's a small island, the Westman Islands. 5,000 people had to be evacuated overnight, and this was incredible. The eruption lasted for 6 months, and
Wow.
yeah, and after 6 months, about 3,000 of the 5,000 returned. So not everybody wanted to risk this again, come back and live on a top of a volcano. And this is something that the people from Grindavik are going to have to decide. Of course, in consultation with authorities and the geologists who are going to have to tell them whether it's actually safe to return to this place.
But so we are looking at something here that isn't going to be over in a matter of days or weeks. This could be months that this volcano bubbles around and doesn't quite do what it's going to do, or even if it does erupt, for how long it erupts for. I had no idea that these things could take so long.
You're absolutely right, Petri. The thing is that we are waiting. We have been waiting for something, for an eruption to occur, because we know when an eruption occurs, it's going to relieve the pressure, and earthquakes will probably subside. But when it's going to happen and where, we don't know. The waiting is the worst. I'm sure for everybody. I live just 20 kilometers away from Grindavik. I'm here in a house which has shaken, and I've been woken up by earthquakes in the past few days. But for the people that live there, this must be awful, not knowing what is going to happen and when it's going to happen, because we can't tell. Even though that we have the best scientists in the world, the best geologists in the world, they still are reluctant to give any kind of timing on this.
And there's also it's very close to a power station, isn't it? The potential eruption. What are the implications for that?
In Iceland, we have two types of power station. We have geothermal power station and the hydro water, basically, that we turn into electricity. One of the biggest one and most advanced geothermal power station is about 5 kilometers or less from Grindavik. Wow. It provides well over 40,000 people with electricity and hot water. And it is, of course, in danger. And this is why the Parliament of Iceland last night actually decided to put a huge amount of money into building walls, earthen walls, all around the power plant to prevent the lava flow to overtake it. Because it would be massive disaster if that one was decommissioned. The airport would be decommissioned, and of course Keflavik or Reykjanes, like we call it, the greater Keflavik area, and close to 40,000 people would be immediately affected.
Gosh, I mean, we just don't get the sense of the size of this disaster really over here. It is quite extraordinary. Thank you so much for explaining all of that. We may come back to you at some point in the future because you've been absolutely brilliant. If I was going to Iceland, I definitely want you to be my tour guide. Definitely. I may do that one day. You never know. Thank you very much indeed. That's Svanur Thorkelsson there, who I wish you could see because he looks exactly like you would expect an Icelander to look. I mean, I can't even tell you. Asterix the Gaul you look like. Amazing. I know that's not Icelandic, but you do look like an Icelander. Thank you so much. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Right, let's take a quick break and then we're going to be talking gadgets with Fevzi in just a moment.
The home of common sense, talk radio and